Everyone, welcome to day 3 of EXPCon. How is everybody feeling this morning? Type in the chat box. Let me know how you're feeling. Give me one word. How are you feeling this morning? Great. Yes, excited, outstanding. I love it. Look at the smiley faces. Look at all you amazing people out there ready for the EXPCon breakout sessions today. Can't thank you guys enough for being here. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Let me look around here and make sure that I have my special guests. And I don't. I'm up here by myself. As you can see up on the screen behind me, I have 2 special guests that will be joining us today, Leonard Jr. and Dr. Joy Wright on this Veterans Day, which is a very special day for all of us. I also have a lieutenant colonel with 25 years of military service, active duty, who will also be here as well, sharing some tips on how to help you guys with your business, your life, really. Things coincide quite a bit, right? Oh, you guys can't hear me? No? I have a...
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. I'm going to go over some housekeeping items first. There's Joy. Awesome. Ray, you here, buddy? I see as well. Awesome. Okay, let me go ahead and just do a couple of housekeeping items real quick. Down in the bottom left hand, for those of you who have been here a while and you've been with EXP and you're very familiar, this would be a great time for you to go freshen up your coffee, use the restroom, grab some water, something to eat, something along those lines. I will go through this quickly as time is of the essence. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a microphone button. Please keep that muted at all times, and use the chat box right next to it for your questions, okay? Lynn will be monitoring the chat box. She'll be sharing things. Also, you guys, we are in a collaborative company, in a collaborative environment that allows us to all work together. So if you're in the chat box and you see someone answer a question that you can help with, feel free to do so, okay? Also, if you're having trouble seeing, down in the bottom of the screen, you will see a button that says Stage Zoom. If you click that plus button, that will take you back into the audience. You'll be able to see all 3 screens nice and clear. To get back to your seat view, you can go ahead and click that Stage Zoom button again, and that will take you down there, all right? If you're having any issues with audio, if something freezes, don't freak out. Okay, you can exit the auditorium and come back in. That will usually reinitialize your experience here. Okay, if you do have any additional tech issues there, you can go to the menu at the top where it says Go To, and you can go to the tech support outpost for help there. All right. Well, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first guests today. We have some very special speakers today to talk about success stories, productivity, what people are doing, what they are doing to show a high level of productivity, getting things done, and some success stories. So what I'm going to do is, you probably recognize this gentleman all the way to the left there. You may remember him from the Sprite commercials back in the day. And I know, Ray, you've probably heard this ad nauseum for all the time that you've been on this planet, which is only a couple years younger than me. So I just want to show a quick video that everybody see who Mr. Leonard Jr. is. Ray, that Churchill football picture certainly brings up some memories, huh?
Yeah, it's real throwback, real throwback. It's just aging me right now.
I can tell. I can tell. Well, thank you for being here. And then I also have, we also have the honor of having Dr. Joy Wright here. Joy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your service. And before I give you guys the stage, in honor of Veterans Day, which of course is very close to all of us, I want to play this short video and then I'm going to let you guys get set. Fair enough?
Good.
And thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
All right, everybody. Welcome again to EXPCon Breakout Sessions. Joy and Ray, again, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. The floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me see if I can get this avatar over here. All right. Good morning, everybody. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Excellent. Yeah, this is a whole new world. It's kind of crazy. This is my first time speaking as an avatar. To start it off, I want to just use this because I saw this. I want to just break the ice a little bit. That's the coolest thing, just being able to dance as an avatar. First, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to first also honor and say, salute to all the veterans out there for working hard to protect us, to make sure that we, are safe here at home. I want to thank my business partner, Dr. Joy Wright. She's a veteran. She served the country. She's a Navy veteran, and so I want to thank her for just being such an amazing person, an amazing partner. Today, so we're talking about productivity. Right. So productivity, in a space when I have a business partner who exceeds every single thing that you can think about from productivity. You look at her family. Her father is a dentist. Her mother has a master's degree. Joy is a doctor of organizational development. Her sister's a doctor. Her brother's a doctor. Her oldest kid goes to Yale. She has twin boys. One of them going to Stanford. He just signed an athletic scholarship to Stanford. Her husband's a fighter pilot. Her husband's brother is an attorney. So her two boys are TikTok stars. It's crazy. So when you look at a family that's being so productive and a person like Dr. Joy, I was a 2.5 graduate from high school. So I'm looking at her, I'm like, how did you and your family get to this place that you are really doing such amazing things? How do you get so productive? My father was a boxer. Have you guys anybody know about this guy named Sugar Ray Leonard? Hands up. Oh, great. Awesome. So yeah, my father was an overachiever as well. He had high productivity. He came from Palmer Park, Maryland. We had nothing when we were born into poverty, and he went on to win six world championships in 5 different weight divisions. He won an Olympic gold medal, and then I had to follow that up. You talk about me coming from two teenage parents and having to try to live in the shadow of this guy that is one of the top champions in the world, one of the biggest people in the world. So, I looked at myself and I said, well, how do I compete with that? So what I did was end up becoming the first guy in my family ever to go to college. I went to Ohio University. Anybody from Ohio out there? I was a two-sport athlete. And so that was my gold medal because I became the first person in my family ever to go to college. I was a two-sport athlete. I played football and I ran track and field in college. I was a high hurdler. I wasn't very tall, but I was very good at running really fast and kicking them down. So I did pretty well. And, but the biggest thing, was growing up, I was coming from this family that, had nothing. I was born to two teenage parents in poverty, and we had this meteoric success pretty quickly. And you had to learn how to deal and grow with that, right? So one of the biggest things that we had when I was growing up was that we had to make this image of our families to be, this certain look, this kind of Instagram type of family. So we wanted to make sure that our filter was correct. Everything that we put out to the world was positive. So we lived this image. And sometimes when you live in that image, it's kind of hard to see exactly who you are. And if you don't know who you are, it makes it really tough as far as, being productive and being successful as a person. But one of the biggest things is that we would go out to, all the TV shows, we'd be on the magazines and we smile. We had to create this image. Our image was kind of like the Cosby family. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the Cosby family, but yeah, my mother was like Claire Huxtable. I was like Theo. And then my father was like Bill Cosby. Not Bill Cosby right now, but who I'm talking about way back when he was Dr. Huxtable. So that's that was the image. That's what we tried to portray. We wanted to be successful and do our things. But I had to learn as a young man to find my own path, to find my own way, and it took me a long time to figure out how to be productive, because my success was gathered in my father, in my family. I mean, that's what my success was built upon, about what other people thought about me. That's what my success was built upon. And so everything that I did, I became a sports agent after I graduated from college. And I represented some of the biggest people in the industry. But I was doing that because it was something that I thought everybody wanted me to do. But all the media, everybody would ask me, say, "Hey, Ray Jr., what do you do? Did you want to box? Did you want to be like your father?" I said, yeah, I mean, it was an amazing time. I got to travel the world. I got to meet so many people, coming from where I came from, to actually, have the opportunity to meet the Queen of England, to dance on stage with Michael Jackson, to box spar with Mike Tyson. And then I played Michael Jordan in basketball, and I beat him. Now, I know a lot of you might think I'm joking with that, but no, I really did. So what happened was, when I was about 12 years old, Michael Jordan came over to our house and I played him in basketball. He gave me the ball first. I shot the ball and shot it way up in the air and made it. Got the ball back. He made a shot and it came back in. We were going to 4. I shot the ball again, made it. I said, I'm not playing you no more. That's it. I beat Michael Jordan in basketball. So that's my success story right there. I beat Michael Jordan in basketball. No, I'm just kidding. Look, here's the major thing. All my life, like I said, my success was based upon my parents and everything else that was happening within my family. So I had to learn pretty quickly about how to change my thought process about what success meant to me and how to be productive. Because I would get up and do something and say, this makes sense to me. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. But I was a big procrastinator. I would procrastinate all the time and lost a lot of time in trying to make sure that I was doing what made me happy, but I was doing it for everybody else. So I learned that at an early age, and once I started getting to that space where I could figure things out, it was probably about 6 years ago, no, about 8 years ago, when I finally started speaking. I was a shy kid. I never thought that I would speak in front of an audience. I was so nervous, but Dr. Joy had me come down and speak to the military base. And the only way I know how to speak is from the heart. I started telling my story and they asked me to come back and do it again. I said, wow, this is incredible. Maybe I can speak, but then I would come back and I say, I don't know how to have a different conversation every single time. So this is my naivete, learning how to speak. That because it was my first time speaking, that I would go out and talk to everybody and say I had a different speech every single time. And I was like, this is amazing. I don't know how these motivational speakers do this. They come out there and they talk and they say something different every single time. And I spoke to my father and he was like, no, you're speaking to a different, and use the same presentation. I'm like, oh, well, that makes it a lot easier. So that helped me with my productivity and what I found to be success in something that was really scary. But what I want to do first is I want to bring up my partner, Dr. Joy, and then, let her introduce herself and let her tell you a little bit about her before we get into the productivity.
Thank you, Ray. Hopefully everybody can hear me. It is such an honor to be here, and it's always an honor to be here, especially on Veterans Day. And thank you for honoring the military at the beginning. We appreciate that. I just want to say, well, first of all, this platform is amazing. Ray and I had fun dancing in the auditorium and riding around on the boat last night, visiting the pirate ship and seeing the island. So if you haven't gotten a chance to do that, definitely take advantage of the platform. It's really fun to walk around. I want to start by saying, you know, Ray mentioned things about me and our family, but one of the most important things I think when we're looking at productivity is surrounding yourself with supportive people in different ways and what that means. And so, you know, Ray is a humble person. I know he mentioned some things about himself, but he is an absolute incredible person. And so for me to work with him and be around his family and his wife and his kids, and you know, our families know each other, it motivates all of us. And you know, I'll talk about the business part in just a second, but Ray's a community leader and coach. He talked about my sons. I have one at Yale and the one that's committing to Stanford, actually signing his letter today. And Ray coached all of them. He spent over 6 years motivating youth in the community in football and other meetings and leadership things for the kids. And so I think that's important, is giving back, because there's a level of motivation, productivity when you do things like that, giving back to your community. And as far as the business side of Ray, I get to see that. And he talked about being shy, and you would never know that because his compassion and care of people, you can see that come across on stage. And I know we're in avatars right now, and you might be able to, you know, hear it in his voice and see it in his dance steps. But for Ray, he has a gift, and that is motivating people. And I say that because surrounding ourselves with people like that, whether it's a business partner, someone in your office, someone you can go to the break room to get a cup of coffee with, and it helps you start that day right. Find those people. And, you know, I found them in the Navy on the aircraft carrier, and I found them in the squadron when they put me in charge and working in a maintenance division with 550 personnel. And there's things we might be a little nervous about or a little unsure, but we surround ourselves.
Hold on, Joy.
Yeah.
Can I stop you for a second, Joy?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just want to let everybody know, when Joy talks about her being on the aircraft carrier, she was one of the first women to integrate aircraft carriers. It was her and 4,999 men. So talk about a trailblazer.
So, and Ray and I talk about that a lot. It's like using your skills, and whether you feel like you're an absolute people person or you feel like you're more of a numbers person or whatever that area is, utilizing your strengths and gifts and sharing those helps actually motivate you to be a better person. And like Ray said, we spoke to that Navy base, and he filled the auditorium. And not only did he fill the auditorium, we were there for hours after, because there was lines of people wanting to talk to him afterwards. And so that for me, that was, keep sharing this gift that you have, because you motivate people. He always says, his grandfather always said, know better, do better. But Ray does that on a daily basis with the kids in the community, his family, and his work. So I just wanted to add that is an important part of the accountability productivity piece, is surrounding yourself with people that get you going down that path. And I had that at a young age with my family. You know, it wasn't always easy. Ray talks about where our family ended up, but my parents always talked about setting goals, and that was continued in the Navy. And Ray, I don't know if you want me to come back to that, or you go on and talk a little bit more about accountability and then come back to me.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll jump in right now. So when we talk about accountability, we're talking about success stories and productivity. You know, as Joy said, my grandfather's lesson to me, his main life lesson to me was know better, do better. So something, you put it to action. You have an action-based life. And so when I look at productivity, I look at it as having something to say accountability. You know, making sure that you are in a place that you're going to be moving forward. Can you guys hear me? Am I having issues with the microphone? Is it okay? Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, Ray, you should be fine now. Joy, if you can just mute your mic when Ray's talking and vice versa, we'll avoid that. Thanks, guys. Doing awesome.
Okay. So, all right, great. Hey, this is real time avatar speaking. So I apologize to you guys for that. But with as I was saying, my grandfather always told me, when you know better, you do better. Meaning you get your education and you put it to action. That was one of the biggest things for me. I had learned that later on in life about accountability, about how to make sure that what I'm doing is going to make sense. What I'm doing is going to have an impact on everybody else. That what I'm doing is going to be beneficial to not just me, but my community and to my family. Now, for a long time, I had major issues about, what it was to be successful in business. I had the name, but I didn't want to use my name because I was so worried about, people, judging me or saying that, I was successful because of my father, not in spite of my father. So the main thing with me is that I wanted to always find my own path. I wanted to blaze my own trail. I was such an independent person that I never wanted anybody to know, really who I was. It was kind of hard to do because I had the same exact name. My name is Ray Charles. Um, it made it, a little tough to hide behind the scenes. And so when I learned to say, okay, what I'm going to do is my path. We all have our own fingerprint for a reason. We're here to leave our own mark on the world. No one has the same fingerprint, because we're here to leave our own mark on the world. And once I had that realization and I knew that, everything started to change in my life. Like Joy does in the military, there has to be accountability when you want to be successful. You can't be productive if you're not accountable and if you're not in a place that you look at yourself and don't say that, what I did is somebody else's fault. You have to make sure that, you look at yourself in the mirror and know that what you did that day, you are accountable for. Biggest thing for me when I first started business, because as I said, I was a sports agent first, and then I sold my company at the age of 26. And then I got into, finance business and, started, working for a company, running sales and marketing teams. I looked at it and took my experiences from traveling all over the world and meeting all these people. And I said, what is it? What is that magic sauce that makes these people so successful? Is it just from where they come from? Is it their background? And as you can see from my twin sister, Joy, both of us have been successful in our lives, but we come from two different backgrounds. So it was never the background that you came from. It was how you looked at it and how you wanted to move forward. What goals did you set for yourself? Are your goals actionable? Did you write your goals down? That was a big thing for me. When I first learned that about writing your goals down to be accountable, that made a big difference in my life because subconsciously, you started moving towards those goals. But how do you get there? When Joy and I started business, our company is called Launch Team Consulting. So we want to launch your business to the next level. And that's what we do. We coach different businesses and executives and people within the businesses to how to be the best selves. And the biggest thing that I learned about productivity and accountability was time management. Have you ever seen somebody that goes out and says, oh man, my day was so busy. I did so much. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. Then I do this exercise. We do this exercise that if you go down and you write your time and write how you actually spend your time. And the realization was that, yeah, we're all claimed to be so busy, but how do we spend our time? We're hanging out with friends, we're talking at the water cooler, we're doing this and that. But at the end of the day, the majority of our time is spent, doing something other than what we're going to do to be productive. So time management is one of the major things. And I had to learn that at an early age. How do I spend my time? Because we were moving around so much, we were traveling across the world. And then when I got kids and got married, I don't know if people are married and kids, it seemed like you never have any time. Especially nowadays, it's so insane for this 2020 time. But it seemed like you never had time for yourself. So I started writing down and saying, how do I spend my days? How can I be more productive? How can I find much more time to do the things that I need to do? And when I started writing it down, I kind of saw that. And it said, you know what? I'm not spending my time effectively. And so we inputted that in our company. So Joy and I, we make sure that we look at the time that we spend, make sure that time is effective because we have kids. And we want to make sure that we have time for our family because in business, success is not just based upon, the finances that you get. It's based upon the freedom that you have from creating that extra time from the work that you do. And that's what, for me, is success. For me having to move forward and say, if I have freedom and I have time and I can be that more productive, then it makes everything much better in my life. And Joy can tell you a little bit about how we approach things, because she runs around with her kids and what she does, and it makes me just kind of in awe of what she does. So Joy, can you tell the audience about how you function and how we look at moving forward to be productive?
Absolutely, Ray. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I wanted to make a statement real quick. I know somebody from the audience, Suzanne Puma Miller, she just said a quote that her dad always told her, that you have time for what you make time for. And I absolutely agree with that. With what I found growing up in a family, I had 5 brothers and sisters, so 3 brothers, 2 sisters, and my mom was always racing around. My dad was always racing around. And we all did sports, between soccer and track for my sister and I. My brothers did football, and they made it. One parent was at least at every event. And I asked my mom, at a young age, how do you do it? And she talked about, probably not the exact words at that young age, but time management, like Ray is saying. And that was reinforced in the Navy. Before every flight, I was a backseater in the F-14, and before every flight, we did a brief, and we would sit down, and I'm telling you this, not that you're going to be launching in a jet, but when we think about work and productivity, especially in this time where we've been in a pandemic, and sometimes we feel like, okay, where do I find my motivation for that next step? I always go back to that flight brief, and we would sit down and we would establish kind of clear objectives and goals, concise wording on what we were doing, and communication on what was ahead, whether it was our emergency procedures, weather diverts, like what fields we would take. And I parallel this to the work world, that if we start our day, whether we grab our cup of coffee or whatever our routine is, what is your flight brief? What is it that gets you into that frame of mind that I'm gonna, tackle this day and move forward, especially with what we're going through right now? And I mentioned one thing was supporting yourself with motivated people. It might be a phone call to someone that kind of is that pick you up. Ray and I are constantly talking about business goals and business dreams, and clearly communicating those and what are our next steps. So if you have a work team, I think that think of it in terms, and even if you write that down, our flight brief, what is that? What are our next steps? How do we communicate that to our team? And what goals are we setting for this team? And another important aspect of that is, once you do all that and you have some good days and success stories, give credit where credit is due. One of the things that, Ray and I learned going into different businesses is sometimes people are quick to want to take credit and look good on a team, but if you give credit and you motivate the personnel that are working with you on your teams or in your workplace or wherever it is, whether you're working with loan officers or you're working with other agents or whoever it is that you're surrounding yourself with that day, give credit where credit is due. And then I think I tackle each day kind of like I did in sports, and I know Ray does the same thing. I played soccer and ran track at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, and all the way through high school and middle school, and I never went into a game not prepared. I practiced during the week. I was rested as much as possible before the game, tried to eat well and fuel my body before I went into that, knowing that sometimes it didn't always turn out that way. Like, there's nights you don't get enough sleep. A child keeps you up. There's an emergency. I just had my 6'4", 17-year-old fall and ended up with 5 stitches roller skating at an event he went to. So you never know these unforeseen things, but on a daily basis, if you can get into that flight brief mentality of what your goals are, what your concise objectives are, and communicate that to your team, I think it helps you move forward as far as that time management and making those goals very clear. Like when we took off in the F-14, I knew very clearly if the weather was bad in Virginia Beach where I was going to land, I knew where my diverts were. And so from a business standpoint, your plan Bs and your plan Cs so that you're prepared for the unforeseen circumstances. And then in this world, with right now with the pandemic and what we're going through, finding ways to motivate yourself, whether it's going into the breakout room and dancing a little bit, listening to good music, whatever it is that motivates you, take time for yourself too. And I'm going to turn it back over to Ray, and I know he's going to talk about milestones and cost of time as well, and it'll come back to me.
Yeah. Thank you, Joy. And many people don't know that Joy is my twin sister. So even though she's blonde from Alabama, we have so much more in common than we have apart. So I love Joy and I love her passion and how she does it, and that's what makes it great. We're gonna do a Q&A in a few minutes, but just wanted to make sure that we get our point across first. So thank you guys. I'm checking in the box, so we'll do a quick Q&A. But when we talk about what success is and what accountability is and what activity is, that's one of the biggest things that we talked about. The first thing that when Joy and I put our business together, we defined what does success look like to us. Is it success that we're successful financially? Is it successful that we have time for our kids and for our family? As I have 4 kids. I have 2 girls and 2 boys. I have a 25-year-old daughter who's graduated from Pepperdine University and is working in New York. And then I have 2 boys, for 17 and 14 and 12 and a 13-year-old daughter. So we're busy over here. So we have to make sure that our time is spent correctly. But the first thing that we talked about was what makes it successful. At the end, what is the end game of our business? You don't just have a business and you don't just work because, just to pay the bills. You work and you put it, especially as an entrepreneur, you put that towards something because you want something special in your life. So the things that we looked at outside of once we defined what success looks like to us was how do we get there? How do we keep ourselves accountable, and how do we be as productive as we can and gives ourselves that freedom that we can move forward and enjoy our time? So the main things that we talk about is for accountability and being productive is time management, having definable goals, which is SMART goals, having milestones so that that you're able to sit to enjoy those moments. Because if you put your goals so big ahead that you can't enjoy the small moments that you're succeeding, then you'll never feel like you're making any progress. And then one of the other things we talk about is the cost of time. What does my time mean to me? What is the value of my time? And that's a major thing. And I think most people don't understand that there's value to your time. That's the one asset in life that we can't change, that we can't stop. Once your clock starts, it never stops until the end of time, until the end of your days. But you have to honor that. You have to make sure the time that you spend is spent, doing things that make you happy, that affect your community in a correct way, and things that, don't burden you down. So we talk about working smarter, not harder. So the time that we use is efficient and holding yourselves accountable to that. And just like they talk about your network as your net worth, using the people and benefits and things that are around you to make sure that you're functioning at a high level. And when we got that from our business, we started to have a lot more success because we didn't spend time on things that didn't, move us forward. The biggest thing that we talked about is our business. We wanted to be successful in a way that we make money, of course. I mean, that's the American way. You got to make money to move forward. But then we also wanted to have a positive effect on our community. So when you talk about that, that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal, our goal is to say that when we're done on this earth, that people look back at us and say, we made a difference. So that drives us as far as being more productive and trying to move forward. And Joy and I move to that every single day. So I'm accountable to her. She's accountable to me. And I don't want to waste her time because I know the effort and things that she put together, to be with her family. So we're accountable to each other. So when you're talking about, how to be more productive, I mean, the main thing is being accountable and having a goal and knowing that if you are doing these things, at work or on your daily basis or with your family, you want to make sure that you're moving forward towards that goal. I had this conversation with Joy before we were traveling. I think we were in Guam at a military base. And she was going through her process before we even started to talk to the audience, to the sailors. And she had her checklist and she was going down everything. And of course, she's a professional, military professional, so she's always on time. Me, not so much. I'm a little more creative minded. You can see from the hat, obviously. And I kind of do things, I was doing things kind of flying by the seat of my pants. But I looked at her and she became a role model to me. I mean, it's amazing to have your business partner be a role model to say, here, if you have your checklist, just like before she went on the flight on the F-14, if she doesn't do something right, then that means someone can lose their life. And that stuck with me and it resonated with me and said, okay, I need to be more accountable to you as a business partner and as a friend and make sure that I value your time. So I'm not the person that shows up late anymore. So Joy, I thank you for that.
Absolutely, Ray.
So do you want to talk about the process, Joy, about how the Navy, for your naval background, makes you more efficient with your time and productivity?
Absolutely. I wanted to add, I know Ray talked about the checklist and the time, and I did as well. But when we talk about the support, when Ray talks about his time, one of the things he brought to the table for me that I just want to add in was flexibility. When you're, I know we have avatars and a lot of our speeches, we do feedback where we get to do some interactive talking, and hopefully we'll get to do that someday with y'all. And I know we'll get the Q&A at the end, which will be great. But for Ray, he has that flexibility and balance with the audience of reading the audience and being available to answer questions and things like that. So I think that we have gifts that we bring and strengths that we bring to the table, and utilize those on your team. And that brings me to the thing about, goals and time management and putting it all together is when we surround ourselves with people that are that support, don't be shy to ask questions. Like one of the things that helped me, I think, the most in the Navy, like Ray talked to you about the fact that I helped integrate the aircraft carriers. And on the aircraft carrier on the Roosevelt, when I checked on board, I was nervous. I was the only female checking on board is ship's company. And I had to go back to everything that I'd learned. But I also realized, yes, I was only female, but the resources of people I could ask questions to on the carrier is what would help me move forward. And so whether it was a Navy chief or another lieutenant or one of the higher ranking officers, I used the resources that were there. So if you're stuck and you feel like you can't answer a question, you have a question, you can't get it answered, find those resources. Don't sit back, because especially at conferences like this, you have a wealth of knowledge around you where you can ask those questions, those hard questions. And I find that my sons, I have the 3 boys, I have 2 17-year-old twins, and I have the 20-year-old that's at Yale. James is committing to Stanford, like what we mentioned, and then both James and Jack are big in TikTok. They have, between the 2 of them, almost 10 million followers. And what I've found with both of them is there's a couple of things. One, yes, they manage their time, and they're 17 years old and own a business now, but they work at different hours where their productivity is in making videos and posting videos while going to school and doing their sports. But the other thing is, which I think is an important thing, because Ray talked about the community and giving back. And I think that when we feel like there's a value to what we can give back, I see this in my sons with their platforms. They have both said it's not worth it if you step on someone else. I hear them saying that to their peers. And I think that in business, when I talked about giving credit where credit is due, I also think that don't step on other people. We want to build each other up. And that's what's so great about a team. Ray was a 2-sport athlete in college and did track and football, and I did soccer and track. And so that team atmosphere, whether you feel that at a conference like this, or in your office or wherever that is, utilize your team resources, utilize your team's gifts and strengths, and build each other up, and thus productivity goes up. The more we step on each other and go through the day kind of almost in a negative light, like I keep on going back to the TikTok, but my twins are known on TikTok with their good vibes, positive stuff. So the more we can do that, I know we have those bad days and those days we don't want to walk through the office smiling or on Zoom smiling, and we feel like we're just going to make it through that hour meeting or whatever it is. But the more we can do that to build each other up and lend a helping hand or answer a question, the more productive our teams and our offices and our conferences are together. So I think when we look at time management, our milestones, our cost of time, we can bring it all together when we look at those things about utilizing each other. Planning like we go into the day with, and I always say the flight brief mentality. And then, that quote about ask a busy person to get something done. We might be overwhelmed, but if we plan out our day right, we can get everything done. So, we have a lot of people coming over tonight in the COVID okay amount for James signing, but it's prepping for that and then doing work and all things that go around that. So I just think prepping before and doing that kind of flight brief mentality of time management helps in the long run with any kind of work productivity. So I'm gonna turn it back to you, Ray.
Yeah. Thank you all. I know we're running short on time, but we want to do a quick Q&A if we can to answer some questions. Joy and I are both orators, so we can be long-winded at times, but we want to make sure that we can get as many questions answered as possible. We're both coaches, and so I know we had one question out there: is that if you're working as an individual, how do you maintain productivity as an individual? The biggest thing is, even if you're working individually, surround yourself with a good team. Joy and I do individual coaching sessions, to help people be the best that they can be, because no one is successful by themselves. No matter if you feel like you're on an island. I remember when I first started my first business, and I'm the CEO of the company, and everything comes back on me. I got to make sure that the payroll is there. I got to make sure that everybody is taken care of. And I had nobody to really talk to. So it was a major stress to me. I felt like I was on an island, and I wish I had somebody or a support team that was there that made sure that, I was able to move forward or just talk through some issues. We all have our struggles every single day. And if we look at the big picture right off the back, it's so scary. So what we coach and what I tell people to do, just like when I'm coaching someone on a football field, the same way as I coach people in the business, you got to take baby steps, have your milestones, your little pieces of success, each day, find out what success is going to be for you that day, and enjoy yourself in those little victories every single time, so that's, really quickly, that's one of the things that I do on a daily basis is say, okay, what is success going to look like for me today? And this is my priority. This is the thing that I'm actually going to get done first today. And once I get done that, I can celebrate it. And I know that I have, hopefully I wake up the next morning, I have tomorrow to move forward. Okay, so questions, anybody else? I'm trying to follow here in the chat box. So Joy, you can take some if you want to as well. I'm going to try to follow along in the chat box if anybody has questions. Oh, so someone's talking about Top Gun. So Joy's husband is a pilot. He's a fighter. He was a fighter pilot, and now he flies for UPS as well. But Joy's husband, he looks just like Top Gun Goose. I mean, Will is like a chiseled guy, and he makes me jealous every single day.
Yeah, he was top hook on his aircraft carrier, which he when he was flying the F-14 before they retired that plane, he was the #1 pilot on the carrier doing the carrier landing. So yes, he is like Top Gun.
Okay, so it said, any advice on how to discover your own uniqueness and create your own brand? Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the biggest things for me when I was, trying to find my own path is how do I create my own brand? How do I step out of the shadow? Basically find your niche. Like, what are you great at? What is your why? Why do people circulate themselves around you? For me, it was that, I was an honest person. I'm pretty humble, and my first instinct as a person is to want better for other people. So that was kind of my niche is when my grandfather gave me that quote, so better, do better. I mean, my goal to the world was to make sure that I was moving forward and helping other people. And that was success to me. So once I found that, I was able to create my brand around that, as a person. So I didn't have sugar. I didn't want to be saccharine Ray or sweet and low. So I'm the know better, do better guy. And so once you find that niche and find out what it is that's moving you forward, then it makes it much easier for you to help others and to get to where you need to be. You see any other questions, Joy?
I have a quick question. Good morning, afternoon.
Morning.
How do y'all personally block out your own time for business priorities and family? Like, are you doing a couple of hours? Just little specifics, if possible.
You want to start, Joy?
Yeah, for me, because the schedules are so different. Like my twin, one of my twins has an audition with a CBS show this week, and so the timing of that and everything's via Zoom, and we're recording and helping him practice and things like that. So being the mom aspect and carving out those hours, what I do is look at the week ahead. And it's funny, the son that's 20 at Yale, he is big on this, where he looks on Sunday afternoon what he has the week ahead, and I do the same thing, and then being flexible. So I kind of balance it around there, where I start and end my day and definitely have time for family and time for work, but just I think a big thing in that was reinforced in the military is flexibility. That I learned very early on that sometimes your landing gear doesn't go down, and sometimes the weather is bad and you're having to divert, and so being flexible. And I think Emma made a comment that she said it wasn't a question, but she said it's interesting that military and business ideologies coincide. And I think that whatever our life experience is that helps us balance those two things, it's very important, because if you make time for family and you're happy doing that with that work family balance, then you will be productive in work. You will be more productive in work. So I think definitely finding that time and being proactive about it, because your work will keep pulling you, and your family obviously will. And so just making sure that you're conscious of that. And that's why I kind of tackle each day with the flight brief approach. And you can call it whatever you want, but kind of having that mentally where you do your own schedule, especially if you're making your own schedule for your team, that you do that. And Ray, do you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to that a little. It's just, when setting your priorities and your cost of time, if my value of being somewhere in a meeting for an hour that's not moving me forward is not something that's going to be beneficial to me, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to have to make sure, if I'm having a meeting, we're going to outline exact responsibilities, exactly what we're talking about. And, there is some flexibility in there, but for the most part, my time is valuable. And I want my time with my family. I want my time to to do other things. So make sure everything is planned out as much as possible. Of course, life is life. Things are going to happen. But where do you prioritize? Set aside time for your family, and whether it's in the evening, whether you're having dinner. Everybody is so accessible now on their mobile phones, technology, that you have to set boundaries. To be productive, because if you give too much of you, you cannot be productive. So, we have time when we turn our phones off in the evening. And so if you don't reach me during business hours, then it's going to be an issue. Then I'll get you in the morning. It's not dire. It's not going to be an issue that, you're not going to survive if I don't talk to you this evening. But, I respect your time, so I want you to respect my time. So set the boundaries. Make sure that with what you plan, if you plan time with your kids, then make sure that time is there as much as you can. So we appreciate it. Thank you for the question. Anybody else?
Ray, I was going to add, Lee just said a good quote that was plan your work your plan, from the audience. That was just an addition. So I think a key word in that is planning. And then I'll add to that flexibility, just being flexible with the changes. You can't always account for the, run to the emergency room with stitches, or the child that's sick. And then the other thing that I wanted to add is learning to be able to say no to some social things that you may or may not want to do. Like, you might love a book club, so that's your form of stress relief, or it might be something that's agonizing, and it's okay to say no, that I'm spending time with my family tonight because I've had a long week at work. Like, I think honest communication, sometimes we try to protect people's feelings by not saying no initially to that invite, but that helps us manage time.
Absolutely.
Hey.
And okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Yeah,
I just wanted to tap in for a moment and see if we can just take a few minutes to unpack what you and Joy have shared with us today, which, by the way, has just been absolutely amazing. It's hard for me to even start to think about where to unpack, everything that you mentioned, because when it comes to productivity, everything you talked about, it's the same whether it's in real estate, whether it's in the military, whether it's in coaching, whether it's in sports, education, you name it. Um, you know, the, you mentioned things like, Ray, procrastination held you back, right? And those were one of the things, but you learned
Right.
from that. You're able to move forward from that. Joy mentioned surrounding yourself with people who support and motivate you, right? Supporting yourself with motivated people is so important. And we're in a collaborative environment where we have that here with EXP. We should also be doing that in our personal lives, right? Giving back to the community, getting involved in networks and groups that fuel our soul, right? That give us fulfillment. Okay, because as you mentioned, your network is your net worth, right? Surround yourself with like-minded people. Surround yourself with people who you emulate, who you want to be like, right? And not just the money part, right? And I love know better, do better, especially when something can come from a grandfather and it's been passed down from generation to generation. I know Ray and Joy and myself too, we'll be passing this down to our kids, right? Accountability. Another thing, we talk about this all the time in productivity for capping on Mondays, right? Accountability is a huge key to success. Actionable goals, right? Writing them down. If you don't write them down, it's simply a dream. Okay? It's a hope, it's a wish, and hope is not a strategy. Time management. Here's something for time management. Write down, Ray touched on this a bit, but write down what you got done for the day. I call it a got done list. We're so pulled into these to-do lists. But write down a got done list and see if it matches your to-do list, right? As far as what's most important. And then success is about creating the freedom to do what we want to do, when we want to do it, and with whom we want to do it, right? And here may be the biggest takeaway that I'm going to take from today, and I hope you guys write this down. What is your flight brief? Okay. Do you have a flight brief mentality? Okay. Are you thinking strategically, really? Right? That's going to help you define your version of success, right? Work smarter, work harder. Ray, I love the fact that you alluded to Joy, not only as your twin sister, but as a role model, right? You chose a business partner. You both chose business partners as role models. You both give each other fulfillment and energy to be able to come back. And I know, Joy, you mentioned that you want to come back at some point. Go ahead and type into the chat box, audience. Would you guys like to get a little more of Ray and Joy? Let's see what happens here. We're getting a lot of yeses. Oh, and further on.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
Awesome.
Hearts.
Guys,
Thanks.
making us blush.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Give credit when credit is due. That is so big, you guys. Let people know. Great job. Pat on the back. You don't realize how important our words and our influence is, especially with our children. Especially if you have a team or you're hoping to build a team. We have to give credit. We have to say thanks, and don't step on people, guys. We're in this very weird place in the world right now, right? We see this a lot in real estate companies, right? Most real estate companies, it's an eat what you kill type of mentality. Each of the agents in these companies outside of EXP are really fighting for that next deal. We don't do that because we all benefit, right? And no one succeeds alone, which, by the way, Ray, I sent a text to Michael Jordan during the presentation here, and he said that you were full of it, that he beat you 10-0. So
Nobody proof. There's no proof.
no proof. But think about it, you guys. Nobody succeeds alone. Michael Jordan didn't succeed alone, right? He had Scottie Pippen by his side. For most of you who have watched The Last Dance, you know the story there. He had Phil Jackson. I mean, Michael Jordan definitely did a lot on his own, but he didn't succeed by himself. Ray, your father didn't succeed by himself. He did the work. He had the flight brief. He knew what he needed to do, and he was going to do what he needed to do, right? Manage his time. He worked hard. He prioritized. He had a flight plan, right? But he didn't do it alone. He had trainers. He had his family. He had, a support system around him that allowed him to reach the highest levels. Setting boundaries was something else you came up with. That is huge. When we say no to something, it gives us the opportunity to say yes to other things that are more important. Okay? Keep this in mind, real estate agents out there. There is no such thing as a real estate emergency. If you set set the expectations up front as to how you work, what your hours are, they will respect that. But if you don't do that, you're going to be 24/7. So learn to say no. So guys, that's like I said, so much to unpack. So much that I know Ray and Joy could go on for hours, myself too. We could talk about this, but we don't have that much more time before we step into the next session. So before we leave everyone for today, Ray and Joy, in 30 seconds or less, give the audience your best advice, your best words to leave them with. And then before you forget, I want you to put in the chat box how people can get a hold of you, how they can learn more about your consulting business and so forth. All righty, you're up.
All right. Joy, ladies first.
Absolutely. I think I'm just going to reiterate the flight brief. So clear objectives and goals, concise communication with your teams, give credit where credit is due, like he said, and then give yourself a pat on the back. When you look at the end of the day, whatever you accomplish, give yourself a pat on the back for doing that, and get up the next day and tackle it as well. And I just wanted to also say, keep doing continued education with conferences and keep learning. Ray and I never stop learning and reading. And then for every educational thing you do, put on a good, fun audiobook or whatever it is to relax, or music and that kind of thing. So thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be here today. I hope I get to see y'all all again. And once again, happy Veterans Day. And thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, and for me, like Jeff was saying, you need a great corner and a great coaching team. Let Joy and I help you out where we can. We don't claim to know every single thing, but information that we have, we love to share with you. Our company is called Launch Team Consulting. You can go to launchteamconsulting.com, or you can go to RayLeonardJr.com as well. That'll lead you to it, and everything on social media that we have for me is at Ray Leonard Jr. So you can follow me. We have a podcast that we do called Know Better, Do Better. So make sure you check that out. The Know Better, Do Better podcast is pretty amazing. We talk to different stories and try to help people trying to move forward in business and life and all different situations. So other than that, my same advice is the same advice that my grandfather gave me. When you know better, you do better. Don't make the same mistake twice, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's insanity. So we appreciate your time. We thank you all so much. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to working with you guys in the future. We have a calendar on our website that we just put together. So if you want to book a session or something, or get a free session to talk about us helping you move forward, make sure you reach out to us. Thank you again. Thank you, Jeff. Thank everybody at ExpoCon. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. Ray and Joy, I look forward to chatting with you guys later. All right, everybody, get ready for our next session. We have a few minutes before we get started, and I'm going to bring up some incredible guests as Ray will dance us out of here. Feel free to get up, refresh your coffee, get some water, use the restroom, do a dance move if you're not sure how to. Go ahead and click up on your name, scroll down and hit dance, or you can